Well, Bitcoin's rally is back on as the digital asset reaches a new record high above $94,000 per token. Joining us now, we've got Mike Novogratz, Galaxy Digital CEO, and our very own Julie Hyman for the conversation. Julie, take it away.
Thank you, Maddie. Appreciate it. And Mike, it's good to see you here. Appreciate your time this morning. I want to talk a little bit about policy because part of the reason, of course, that we have seen this big increase in prices of Bitcoin has been the anticipation of a friendlier administration towards the crypto universe. And yet we've gotten a lot of appointments, but we've not yet learned who the head of the Securities and Exchange Commission might be. There were reports earlier in the week that the Coinbase CEO was meeting with President-elect Trump to discuss that very issue. Who would your dream pick be at the top of the SEC in terms of the crypto approach?
I mean, I like Brian Brooks just because I know him really well, and he was a great head of the OCC. And he knows our industry, dead in. But anyone Donald Trump picks, given the overall pro-crypto attitude of this administration, is going to be fine. If you think about it, right, Vance, Vivek, Elon, Kennedy said he's got his whole net worth in crypto. Howard Lutnick, who just became Commerce, is a big advocate of crypto. So all the guys around the table, Donald Trump himself has got his own coin and was an NFT issuer. All the guys around the table like our space. They believe in the digital asset world. They believe in blockchains and in Bitcoin. And so the whole energy of this administration is going to be so different than the Elizabeth Warren, Gary Gensler era.
Well, and Mike, that word energy, I think, is a really important one because as we know in the crypto space, vibes are very, very important. But I guess my question would be are they more important than policy? Like what specific policies would you be looking for?
The most important policy is a direction from the president through the Secretary of Treasury, through the OCC, the SEC, the FDIC, to allow U.S. players to participate, right? There was a thing called Operation Choke Point, which broadly made it miserable for U.S. players to participate in this industry, right? Fear of litigation, you couldn't get banked. Our audit at Galaxy cost 3 times what it would if we were a non-crypto company. So we're spending $9 million a year on an audit for a medium-sized company. That's insane, right? So the tax on crypto has been brutal. That is going to come way down. People aren't going to fear, they're constantly getting a Wells notice.
And I'm also curious what all of this is going to do for Bitcoin itself versus altcoins, or do you think it's sort of rising tide lifts all crypto boats?
Listen, that's always been the case. Right now, there's a distinct Bitcoin story as these big convert issuers they're buying Bitcoin. You got a lot of overseas buyers buying Bitcoin. And so I think broadly, it's starting as a Bitcoin story. But Bitcoin's always been the gateway drug for the digital asset space. And with better regulation around market structure, around what's a security and what's a commodity, right? What's a utility token? Once we get more clarity around that, you're going to see a lot more development and innovation. So one of the reasons you haven't seen the great innovation in this space is people were scared of it, right? The big players were. And I think that's all going to change.
One thing that could certainly change that is a Bitcoin strategic reserve. There's been a lot of excitement about the government potentially buying up to 1 million Bitcoin. Do you buy that that's going to happen under this administration?
Don't know. My gut feeling is it will be really good if they do this. If they just pledge, which Donald Trump did in Nashville, not to sell the $20-odd billion of Bitcoin they have, that's a big win. I do think buying some Bitcoin to send a message that we're going to lead the world in Bitcoin is a smart idea. Yeah. I don't think the U.S. dollar needs anything to back it up. We've got the strongest military in the world. And so, again, my guess is buying 1 million Bitcoin would seem a little extreme to try to back, a $28 trillion economy up. But sending the message that we're going to lead in this space, I think is a great idea.
I also want to get more of your take on some of these personnel decisions, obviously with Lutnick snatched up for Commerce. In the press release, they talked about how he's going to be a leading voice on tariffs with direct responsibility over USTR. He said that there will also be no carve-outs for the likes of Apple. He speaks fondly of an era with low income taxes, high tariffs. How are you positioning around a potential impact of tariffs given the likes of some of these personnel we've already seen get picked for these positions?
You know, a lot of you had a big move already in dollar China, dollar Mexico. And so we'll see. You know, Donald Trump is great at scaring people. And a lot of this tariff bluster is to get the other side to the table and negotiate better trade deals. And so I think we'll see how it plays out. You know, blanket giant tariffs bad for the economy will slow the economy immensely, and bad for those countries. But I don't think that's where we're going to end up. I think we're going to start that, and we're going to get better trade deals between us and China, and us in Latin America, and us in the Mideast. I'm sorry, us in Europe.
And Mike, getting back to Bitcoin itself here, we just had the introduction of options on IBIT in particular. Deal. Yes. So talk us through that. Why is it a big deal? What are the implications?
Listen, the one thing that is clear in these markets, and you can see it with stocks like MicroStrategy or NVIDIA, is that there's tremendous amount of option playing from retail punters, and they love short-dated options, 1 week options, 1 day options, 1 month options. And up until now, in the Bitcoin ETF, there was no way that a Robinhood investor could play an option on IBIT or any of the other Bitcoin ETFs. And so that's going to change. It was off to a huge day yesterday, and I think you're going to see that just grow.
Does that increase or decrease volatility, Mike?
It will increase volatility, 100%.
And so, which is interesting to me because it's already a volatile asset.
You know what? I think I've said this over and over. It's strange to me that people feel a need for monster leverage on an asset that trades, at 50 or 60 vol itself. I think that's why lots of people get burned. You're up, you're up, you're up. Ooh, you're down. And in manias, people love leverage. There's a lot of leverage in the system right now. At one point, there'll be a washout. I don't see it. It maybe doesn't happen until next year. But by definition, when there's tremendous one-way direction, something happens and everyone runs the other direction. And that's the nature of the beast in crypto at this point. I do think over time, years, not weeks and months, the volatility will come down. When we talked about this in 2017, Bitcoin was a 100 vol asset, and now it's a 50 vol asset. And so over time it matures, but right now it's a hot potato.
Yeah, still more volatile than everything else, but less volatile than it used to be.
Yes.
So how high do you think the potential is for the price to go before that washout? And then what are the sort of contenders to then trigger that washout?
Markets love big numbers. Well, I'm sorry. Markets love big numbers, and so 100 seems like it's a good place for it to start. 100K, and we're at 94 now, so that's 6.5% away. I do think there's a chance that it could really accelerate up if we start seeing the big sovereign wealth funds buy. And we're seeing a little bit of that out of the Mideast.
How will we know when they're buying, Mike?
It after they buy something, it usually gets announced or it leaks through the rumor mill, and people see flows, and some people will talk about it, other people won't. But what's been interesting recently is there is someone selling a lot of Bitcoin at 92, 93, 94,000 because there have been massive buying, right? Our desk has only seen buying, not selling. And most of my friends who are in the hedge fund business, our client base, are buyers, not sellers. But someone's out there selling a lot, and that's what makes a two-way market. One thing to understand, this is the first global asset we've ever dealt with. When I say that, there are individual people in every country of the world that participate in Bitcoin. And you can't say that about another asset in the world, other than maybe the dollar.
Well,
And so, it could be Chinese miners for all I know. We're not seeing the flow, but there is somebody selling a lot of Bitcoin into all this buying.
Mike, I just want to get your take on the kind of relationship between Bitcoin and the dollar. Then I've heard you talk about the increased global demand for Bitcoin alongside global fiscal expansion. What does that mean for your outlook on the dollar? Could we see demand for Bitcoin turn into a headwind for treasuries for the US dollar?
Listen, we're still a small market. We're even at 100,000, right? You're $2 trillion, right? What's gold? 15 trillion. So we're a seventh of gold, right? It's a long way before we're starting to be a headwind for the dollar. Like, we're more of a report card. We're a report card on how global fiscal stewardship is doing. And listen, there's one side of me that thinks if you get Kevin Warsh and Scott Bessent or any of the guys, the guy from Apollo they're talking about now around the table, and these guys have their way, they're some of the smartest guys on economic policy America could hope for. And I would bet you they'd fight pretty hard to bring down the debt to GDP ratio. And that wouldn't be good, right, for Bitcoin if they actually accomplished it. Unfortunately for them, it's really tough, right? You're going to have to cut Medicare. You're going to have to cut Social Security. Those are political issues. That's Congress, not necessarily the executive side. And so I think even with the best guys trying, you're still going to have a big deficit next year. But that's a risk to, the thesis of easy money forever, right? If you get guys that say no more easy money, I mean, look what they did in Argentina. Inflation comes down. I mean, first, you put your economy into a stall, inflation comes down, efficiency goes up, and you'll see all Argentinian assets rally. Like, Argentina is an amazing place to invest right now because they've had these reforms. And so, like, that would be the counter argument. I just think adoption and the rest of the world being fiscally profligate is going to drive Bitcoin first.
Mike, finally, I want to ask you about mining because you guys have some Bitcoin mining operations, but as of late, you diverted that to a deal with hyperscalers, right? With AI hyperscalers. Why did you guys do that? And does price action change that calculus at all? Or is that kind of the decision's going to stay that way?
Listen, the AI demand for energy is so great if you have energy in 25, 26, 27, and the price, it makes it a better investment than Bitcoin, certainly over a 3, 4, 5 year horizon. Listen, as price goes up, Bitcoin mining becomes a better business. It's been a very difficult business because so many people have thought they can make money in Bitcoin mining that the hash rate just keeps going higher and higher, right? We might see that change as some people unplug their Bitcoin mines and put in AI data centers. But right now, for us at least, the data center play looks a lot more profitable.
All right, Mike Novogratz of Galaxy Digital, thank you so much for joining us, and a huge thanks to our own Julie Hyman for bringing us the conversation.